Hello, English 9 Honors. I wanted to make you a quick little video in hopes that I could help you improve your proficiency with one of our unit standards here that we have been practicing, but some of you seem to be struggling on it a little. And instead of leaving you, similar pieces of feedback just over and over and over again that you might not understand, I figured I would try to explain it to you in a quick video. So I'll try to keep this as short as I can. This is our rubric that I did share with you guys already. This is kind of our figurative language standard. And you're supposed to be able to demonstrate that you understand figurative language, word relationships, nuances, those slight variations in word meanings, and you can interpret all of them and analyze their role in a text. Now, you've all done pretty well with the first two parts. We had a little bit of trouble distinguishing figurative versus literal language in the prologue, but some of you have really stepped that up and recognized that by being able to identify right here, accurately recognize figures of speech in the text. You did that pretty well on your figurative language chart. You did find them and you accurately labeled what they were. Where we're having a little bit of trouble is this last bullet here, explaining the meaning and roles of the figurative language in the text, and also a little bit explaining the diction a little bit. These ideas up here, some people are having trouble talking about diction in the correct way. So in order to help you do that, let me share with you a little, I'll share it this way, a little visual that I made in the hopes that you would understand the skill that you're trying to achieve a little bit better. So you have language in a text. It can be any text. For us, it happens to be Romeo and Juliet. We have our language. What are you supposed to do with that? Well, you're supposed to do hopefully two things to show the skills in this standard. First, you're supposed to look at the diction. And remember, diction means word choice. So you don't ever say that the author uses diction because that is obvious. Every author uses diction. Every author uses words. You're going to want to talk about how the author uses diction, right? What type of diction is used. And so you want to look at what specific words stand out. When you're looking at a section of the text, what words stand out? Are there any words that you know are purposefully used for a reason? Think about, why did the author use those words instead of using synonyms for those words? So for example, if someone called you cheap, said, "Oh, you're so cheap," you would be offended, right? You would think that type of word is negative, and that's kind of is what is on this side of our chart. You're thinking about what those words make you think and feel, because remember, all words have connotation. So if I called you cheap, you would be offended. That's negative. But if I said you were frugal, that word has more of a positive connotation. You think of somebody who is wise with their spending. They don't spend, too much money. They're very thoughtful. But when you think about someone who's cheap, it's almost like, they're not willing to spend any money at all when they should. So they have a little bit of different connotations, but when you think about what they mean the same thing. So think about, these kind of all work together. Why did an author use one word instead of synonyms that they could have used to convey an idea, right? Or why did they even put the word in the first place, right? We talked about Romeo and Juliet at the end of the first act. Juliet says, "My only love sprung from my only hate." Why did Shakespeare use that word twice? So when thinking about diction, you can talk about he used repetitive diction, and he is highlighting, he's emphasizing only, because he wants to emphasize how ironic it is that she fell for the only person that she couldn't love, and really highlight the central tragedy of this entire play. So that's why he's using that type of diction. So that's what you have to start to think about when you're analyzing diction specifically. Then the other kind of arm of this chart moves over to you looking for figurative language, finding where does the author use figurative language and why does he use it. So you have kind of two boxes to think about. This one over here, you guys are all pretty solid on. You're able to see where it's used, and you're able to identify correctly what kind of figurative language is used. You can find a metaphor, you can find a simile, personification, hyperbole. You're able to find those accurately. Where we need to practice a little bit more is, what does it mean and what impact does it have on the text? This last one here, the impact on the text, is where many of you still need practice. You didn't show me that piece of the skill on your figurative language chart or on your language comprehension and analysis chart. So let's look at what that looks like, what it looks like when this is missing and what it looks like when it's done well. So if I take you over to it's kind of an incomplete example. So this is just an example chart where some of the ideas are not fully explained. You're going to see that the simile is accurate, right? There's a simile. We waste our lights in vain like lamps by day. Accurate. That is a simile. Very well selected. And then the explanation is correct. he's wasting his life or light, like how lamps waste their light by being on during the day, right? That's accurate. That is, we go back to this visual right here, you know, these two over here, check. What does it mean? Check. We have all of those. But when you come over to the column where you're supposed to analyze, why is it used? What is the impact on the text? What is stated in this column is really just a, reiteration of this column over here. You don't need lamps during the day because it's already bright out. That's really just saying the same thing as this in different words. So instead, you need to take the time to think about, why would Shakespeare use this simile here, right? And yes, you can certainly, a lot of you will like revert back to saying like, oh, it's a lot more beautiful language and it's more poetic, and he's playing into that poetic style. It's part of his style, and that is all true. But see if you can actually break down why it is being used. So if you go up to my example that I had put at the top on this sheet, you really look over this, it tries to break down why he's saying what he's saying in the way that he's saying it. Why is he using this figurative language here? Now, you guys have all read this example, so to help you out, I'll look at a different example from somebody else's chart. If we go to the simile on this sheet, right, a different simile, still a simile, scaring the ladies like a crow keeper, right? Still a simile, and here is the explanation, right? Benvolio is explaining to his friend Mercutio and Romeo of a blindfolded Cupid costume. He compares this costume as being as effective as scaring away ladies as scarecrows, right? So explaining what the simile is comparing. What does it mean? Here it is. And you go to this column, now we're trying to think about why it's used. Benvolio's comparison of the crow keeper with young and inexperienced men posing as Cupid in a vain effort to attract the ladies highlights the humorous and witty essence of his character, right? So sometimes a simile might be used to enhance a character, to characterize. Sometimes it might be used as, referencing a theme or foreshadowing something, or, somehow mentioning something in the plot line. So you can think about all the different ways it might impact a text or impact the audience. Maybe it's enhancing our understanding of something. But in this way, this student did a good job saying the impact is to highlight his character. It also adds a sense of humor to the scene, dismissing Romeo's prior worries. And so there's the impact. That is why the simile was used. And that's what you guys are trying to shoot for. You're trying to shoot for explaining why it was used. And it definitely takes practice. But I wanted to show you some examples like that so you would see what it looks like, when done well. So with this video, I've also posted this exemplar chart that you can use. We had about probably 5 or 6 students in the class. I could have used any of their charts. I just picked one of the 6. 5 or 6 of you were doing this really, really, really well, and I gave you that feedback when I commented on your chart. And then the rest of you could still use a little bit of practice. So if you would like to add to your own chart, in the next couple of weeks before the summative, or a week and a half or so, feel free. You do not have to at all. I'm giving you this advice in preparation for our final practice activity that's coming up in a couple of days. So hopefully this will help you to do well on that. If you have any questions at all, or need any additional practice, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here for you as much as you need. So I hope you're doing well, and I will talk to you soon.